Turned out that my friend's father actually imported clothing from the United States into Mexico.
The story you are about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Back in 1983, I was a newly crowned 16 expert on ABA, and I was invited by one of my close friends. My brother and I were actually invited by one of our close friends to go down to Mexico, spend the summer in Mexico, and actually in Guadalajara with him and his father and his family. So his father took care of all of our accommodations on how to get to Mexico. And so one day we packed up our bikes, and my friend's father, one of his employees, showed up at our door in the middle of the night because it was a Ford felony van, one of those vans with no windows on the side, and it was filled with clothing. Actually, it turned out that my friend's father actually imported clothing from the United States into Mexico. So what happened was we got in this van. For all three of us, we got in the van. We drove down to Mexicali, and while we were crossing the Mexicali border, we were stopped at the border. The federales searched the van. They found our bicycles hidden underneath a bunch of clothes. They seized our bikes. They took them from us. We couldn't get them back. My friend's father actually gave him a nice little bribe to let us get our bikes back, but they wouldn't let us get the bikes back at that time. So we had to continue on with our trip down to Mexico. So we got into Mexicali with no bikes, by the way. We got into Mexicali. We got on a train, and this wasn't no Amtrak train with a snack bar and air conditioning and seats and beds. This was literally a train with broken windows and no air conditioning. So in the middle of the summer, we were on this train for about a day and a half, going from Mexicali to Guadalajara, where my friend's dad lived, and it was the most horrible experience I've ever had. So we were sweating on this train. We didn't know how to speak Spanish. We were taking advantage of it. We would stop we would have a stop in a certain small little town on the way down in the train. We'd be taken advantage of. We try to buy food. Worried about, well, we can't drink the water now, but we buy clothes, trinkets, stuff like that. So anyways, we made it to Guadalajara, and it turns out that we befriended a lot of there was a big BMX community down in Guadalajara at the time. A lot of guys, they loved their SE bikes, the quad angle, PK Ripper, and that type of thing. They actually loved them. What they did was they would buy them from my friend, and then they would go ahead and keep them and resell them down there for a huge profit. The funny part about it is I had my JMC Daryl Young at the time, and when they saw my Daryl Young, they really didn't care about the Daryl Young, about the JMC. They wanted my friend's SE quad angle. So no one ever asked me. No one ever wanted to buy my bike. But we befriended a bunch of guys down there, and we befriended this one guy. His name was Chava, and he was the local pro down there. And we were always pretty good. I mean, we could jump all kinds of cars, picnic tables, stuff like that. But this guy was another level. This guy could jump anything. He took us down to this place called the Hoyo, and the hole. That's what Hoyo means in Spanish. And this guy, he obviously wanted to impress us all, so he did the biggest, baddest jump that he possibly could. He jumped over the Hoyo, did a no-hander, crashed, got up, dusted himself off, and then said, "Okay, what can you guys do?" We jumped the Hoyo, but we didn't do a no-hander. We just jumped it with our hands on, and it was a fun thing. We befriended a lot of guys. Child became one of my buddies. We were the same age. We were both 16, maybe 17 at the time. We found out that he had won the recent Tijuana National the year before. So there was a big race down by Mexico City, a big national that we actually were in the middle of Mexico. No parental supervision. 16, 17 years old. I think my brother was 14, 15 at the time. No supervision. We had a limited amount of money. We might have had like $100 on us. We got in this bus. Not the greatest bus, but at least it had windows. We drove down, we got in this bus, went down to the race, We showed up at the race. We had some pan dulce in the morning. That was about it. That's what we could afford. We raced our races that day. They actually called me an experto profesionales. So I raced a pro class down there. Back then they had our class and they had our open races. So I won my first moto in my class. I won my first moto in my open. So I automatically went to the main event. So by this time we had been in Mexico for a couple months. I hadn't heard anybody speak English in a long time. My brother and I were sitting around bullshitting before the race, and my brother said, "Dude, I think you're gonna win the whole thing, man. That's gonna be bitching." And while we're sitting there, this guy comes out of nowhere and walks up to us and says, "You ain't gonna get shit today." And we were surprised, like, wow, this guy's actually speaking English to us, and we're way in the heart of Mexico at this race. So it turns out this guy was like one of the factory riders for a Mexican bicycle company, and he told me I wasn't going to get shit that day. Now I thought I was always a dirty rider in the United States. I thought that was pretty dirty. I take people out, I elbows and that type of thing. But these guys in Mexico was a whole nother level. I pulled lane 8 on both races. After I got out on each race, I got out in probably second or third place. They pushed me to the side, they took me out, bump bars, and I crashed on both races. So actually, the guy was telling the truth. I really did get it in Mexico.
No place to be. You come unwound, you're losing ground like a pinball bouncing over town. Johnny Rotten, fishnet stockings, Levi jeans, Dr. Martin.